Time for a retro look, for a retro video. I got this in the mail yesterday. I was surprised at some of the content in this magazine. First off, the first page, Welcome to the 90s, is fantastic. But I was surprised at some of the content in here, to be honest. Money. So these are the top 10 stories of the year. Money. The year 19... Now remember, the year in photos books now are just photos. The year 1990 will be remembered as the year green was the NHL's predominant color, the color of money. That's right, North Stars fans, green. Almost every major story during the calendar year involved money. Free agent defenseman Scott Stevens swapped his red, white, and blue Washington Capitals jersey for the blue note of the St. Louis Blues and $5.145 million over 4 years. Salaries skyrocketed. Another shade of green also made the headlines, along with a lot of dollar signs. The Minnesota North Stars soap opera involved the sale of the team and the subsequent deals, making Norman Green the sole owner. As well, the NHL made plans to welcome 3 new teams by 1992, with former North Stars owner George and Jerry Gunn's San Jose franchise starting in 1991. The 3 teams will pump $150 million in revenue into the league through a $50 million expansion fee each team. That's a lot of money, isn't it? Vegas just got their hackles up in a bunch. With the collective bargaining agreement expiring this coming September 15th, some players have predicted a strike for liberalized free agency. Free agency was a lot more restricted back then. And salaries weren't great either. Compared to now, anyways. Rangers, it's gonna turn the whole business into a calculated cold business. New York Rangers general manager Neil Smith says, "I don't think it'll be a lot of fun during this climate. All GMs are going to be forced into a real business mode. It's more than just evaluating talent. It's putting dollar signs on players. That's what they do." Rangers right winger Mike Gartner signed a 1-year plus option deal over the summer for $1.2 million plus incentives. Says the NHL had $400 million in revenue that last year. That comes right from President John Ziegler's mouth. There's a lot of money there. Players want their fair share. There's been inequities in the past, and we're catching up. Rangers rookie goaltender Mike Richter, who overheard Gartner's remarks, said, "The money's there, so we don't feel bad about taking it." At least that's done. This is 27 years ago, so clearly that's done, right? Money's not a problem. Here's an interesting too. One of the major storylines is swapping superstars, and there's Phil Housley in a Jets uniform, Chelios with the Blackhawks just after he'd been traded from Montreal. He was acquired in exchange for Denis Savard. Good thing we don't see trades like that for Montreal anymore, eh? Trading a young, strapping defenseman who's ready to win some Stanley Cups in favor of an aging talent who's popular in Montreal, but it doesn't really even out the trade. I'm really glad those things don't happen anymore. Speaking of things that don't happen anymore, there's the Oilers winning the Cup, and there's Esa Tikkanen. Isn't that kind of fun? I did a video on Tikkanen, and then there's Tikkanen. They talk about Grant Fuhr. Of course, Grant Fuhr was coming out of his massive drug problems at that point. And at the point where his drug problems became an issue, Bill Ranford took his job, so it just got worse. One of the major storylines is Mario. Where am I? There I am. Mario Lemieux. And his ongoing issues with some injuries and that kind of thing. Yeah. "Oh, my aching back. Has there ever been a cliche more fitting for one player in the one calendar year? Mario Lemieux began 1990 with a back condition that threatened his grip on the NHL scoring title. He ended it with a back condition that was threatening his career. And it shortened it. Lemieux would have threatened Gretzky's records." Here's an interesting one. This doesn't look like a false color image. I want you guys to take a look at this, because I'm still confused. That appears to be a North Stars jersey that's purple and pink. And it doesn't look like a false color image other than that. And there's green looking all happy. I don't understand. I'm gonna have to go to NHLuniforms.com and figure this out, because that's pink and that's purple, and yet it's the North Stars, who never wore pink and purple. It's so weird. And there's nothing in here about Like there's no facing page, weird screwy picture. Here's an explanation. No. It's so strange. It doesn't look like an all-star game or anything. I don't understand what's going on here. And that was before the Hockey Fights Cancer thing? I'm really confused. See, she's confused too. The Stars had enthusiastic new ownership prepared to turn things around in a state of hockey with a proud hockey tradition. Only funds were a little tight. Not to worry, Norm Green, a minority owner of the Calgary Flames, was more than willing to bail out the fledgling owners. That's right, the Minnesota North Stars aren't going anywhere. That's what this whole article's about. It's so weird. And people wonder why I buy these magazines. Eric Lindros. This was at the start of the Lindros controversy. I'm not playing for Quebec. All right, well, we'll draft you. But I'm not playing there. Yeah, but we'll draft you anyways. And then, ironically, on the next page, here's an article on Bobby Clarke. Keep in mind, this is before the Flyers traded to get Eric Lindros. Yep. April 16th, they announced general manager Bobby Clarke had been fired by Philadelphia. Dan Snyder, Jay Snyder, ashen-faced, cited philosophical differences regarding the task of rebuilding the team, which had just missed the playoffs for the first time in 18 years. To many people, Clarke was the Flyers. The franchise's most endearing image is of Clarke holding the Stanley Cup aloft, his crooked, gap-toothed grin summing up the essence of the Broad Street Bullies. Nearly everyone around the team assumed that Clarke and the Flyers' ownership were inextricably linked, that Clarke, the ultimate Flyer, would gracefully step aside and take another job in the organization. In the immediate wake of the announcement that ended Clarke's 21-year link with the franchise and 6-year reign as GM, there were two major theories of what went wrong. One story is Clarke refused to fire head coach Paul Holmgren, his best friend. Since Holmgren is still coaching the team today with a contract extension through 92-93, that theory didn't hold up. The other idea, alluded to in Snyder's press conference remarks, was that the team wanted to embark on a much more drastic rebuilding plan than Clarke envisioned, deep-sixing veterans right and left and starting over with youngsters. But the Flyers made few moves in the offseason, and they started their 90-91 schedule with 35-year-old Mark Howe and 30-year-old Tim Kerr expected to play key roles. And Kerr would have got hurt, because that's what Kerr did. So why then was Clarke fired? One clue came a few days after the press conference when Ed Snyder told a reporter he wasn't sure Bob ever really respected Jay as a hockey man. Subsequent remarks by others close to the situation indicated that Clarke, the 33-year-old team president, was the boss's kid, the teenager who hung around the rink during the Stanley Cup years. Last season, as the team floundered and Jay Snyder began to take a more active role in decisions, Clarke resisted. Ultimately, the deterioration of this relationship seems to be what did Clarke in. Today, of course, Clarke is in exile as the GM of the Minnesota North Stars. Possibly the toughest job in the NHL, and Russ Farwell is the Flyers GM. That is so weird. I always thought I'd spend my hockey life with the Flyers doing something, Clarke said during an early season North Stars practice. I wasn't campaigning to be the Flyers general manager. I was offered the job and I took it. I understood that you could get fired, but I never thought I would be fired. So, Bobby Clarke, GM of the Minnesota North Stars. Isn't that Bizarro World? I'd forgot that even happened. Scandal in D.C. Oh, 1990. Nobody has any photos to commemorate the incident that unraveled 16 years of effort by the Capitals to earn a niche in the Washington community. A lot of folks retain mental images, however, and that is probably worse from the Capitals' viewpoint. It happened in May, no more than 50 hours after the Capitals had completed their season, losing to the Boston Bruins in the Wales Conference Championship. A sports bar held a party for the players, transporting them to the site in limousines. After a long night of partying, with the public invited to join in, several players wound up in the back seat of one of those limousines with a 17-year-old woman. I don't know if I can finish this. So I forgot about this. As Dawn Rose, the woman, was telling police that stuff happened to her. 4 players were implicated in media accounts. Dino Ciccarelli, Jeff Courtnall, Neil Sheehy, and Scott Stevens. I'm pretty sure that was disproved. And yet, You never know. The club declined comment while the grand jury waived charges. I'm pretty sure it was dismissed. Owner Abe Paulin was reportedly livid with rage when he learned of the incident. Eventually issued a statement supporting the player's innocence and citing the religious tenets of forgiveness. The fallout affected the makeup of the team as well, and by the start of the new season, there were some who could see strange form of fate in the consequences. Stevens, the club's best defenseman, took advantage of his free agent status to sign with the St. Louis Blues. Courtnall, the team's second leading scorer, was unwilling to face public scorn and asked to be traded. He also wound up in St. Louis in a deal for Mike Lawler and Peter Zezel. Cicerelli and Sheehy, their trade value non-existent, chose to stay and fight back. Cicerelli, the Capitals' leading scorer, spent the summer visiting hospitals and talking with critical fans. He won some back, managed to placate his wife and teammates, and entered the season with renewed hope. I just have to go out and play hockey, Cicerelli said. I want to put the rest of it behind me. As far as I'm concerned, it's over. I'll take care of the personal part with my family. I just hope people will let me get on with my life. Well, he's in the hall. Stevens is in the hall. Jeff Courtnall went on to some fantastic things. Here's another top story. Bob Goodenow. Eagleson was as crooked as they get. And when Eagleson went out, and they realized how crooked he was, lawsuits ensued. And Goodenow I thought was good. I know a lot of people disliked him due to the lockout, but I didn't mind him. Oh God, how Rollerblade helped a Montreal Canadian become an LA King. And there's Luke Robitaille on rollerblades. That shows what year we're in. And hello, this is the rookie year of Sergei Fedorov. Sergei Fedorov did not defect from the Soviet Union, but he did legally abandon the Soviet national team at the Goodwill Games in Seattle in July, and the Red Wings are glad he did. He's an impressive offensive center who stepped right into the Detroit lineup. And then there's a couple pictures in here that are interesting. With Bobby Clark gone, the Philadelphia Flyers revamped their management team. Successful junior exec Russ Farwell left, took over as GM, and Ken Hitchcock became assistant coach. So there's Ken Hitchcock at the time, and check out that happy picture of the young top 4 draft. Owen Nolan with the Nordiques. So this is a year before Lindros. And they talk about how Holik, Yager, and Reichel all exited Czechoslovakia. Capitals scored a coup in October by acquiring Soviet defenseman Mikhail Tatarinov. LA Kings rookie rearguard Rob Blake earned kudos from many, including Gretzky. The Nordiques were shocked but happy to welcome Matt Sundin in September. The number 1 pick in the 1989 entry draft was supposed to play another year in Sweden, but grew disenchanted with his club there. So there's the pictures to match that. I still like those jerseys. It's all about jerseys. And this is why... Oh, look, that page is falling out. Oh, geez. That's not good. That picture shows why I'm wearing this jersey. There's Paul Reinhart, my favorite Canuck defenseman. When the Vancouver Canucks obtained Paul Reinhart in September of 98, they knew he wouldn't be around forever. They didn't expect the talented 30-year-old to call it quits 2 years later. That's true. His back was pretty foobarred by the time he got to the Canucks. Speaking of foobarred, there's Vladimir Krutov, who didn't last very long in Vancouver. Not every Soviet player was able to handle the difference between we tell you when to sleep, when to eat, and where to go, and the freedom that you get in North America. Not every player does well with that. Of course, the KHL isn't like that now. There's Ally Afraidy, Wild Thing with the Leafs, and that's at the All-Star game, obviously. Which is what I was thinking with that Brian Bellows picture with the weird pink and purple North Stars. The bad. Edmonton's Peter Klima had to spend a day in jail during the off-season for alcohol-related problems that plagued him in the past. I wouldn't cut this magazine up because it's a classic and it's awesome. But the fact that Peter Klima's picture's right over the bad, that's awesome. I never liked Peter Klima. Brian Skrudlin wasn't bad, but the Canadiens' power play was, and the Hab Center was often on it. It led to the team's playoff demise. So the Canadiens at this point had players who were better suited to defensive hockey being forced onto the power play, and to perform roles that they shouldn't. Yeah, it even happened back then. How low can they go? Quebec's Brian Fogarty finished 89-90 with a league worst -47, and the Nordiques were 21st overall. This is a 21-team league. Yeah, it was ugly. It was ugly. Chicago Blackhawk coach Mike Keenan apologized for being charged with drinking and driving violation. Can you imagine now? I mean, with the way that social media is now and the way that the world is now, holy crap, these guys would never get out of that. Pittsburgh Penguin goaltender Tom Barrasso had to leave the team February 9th to be with his 2.5-year-old daughter Ashley, who is undergoing treatment for cancer. He did not return to the NHL team until the beginning of the 90-91 season. So there's Barrasso there. They won a cup that year. So, there's that. Battered and beaten, Bob Probert carried the scars of an October 4th fight with Devils Troy Crowder. And Crowder was legitimately tough, but why is Probert on that part of the page? Well, cut Probert's face down the middle. Bobby Probert. Oh yeah, New York Islanders Mick Vukota top and Bob Gartner bottom were offenders in an embarrassing, albeit violent, outburst in the playoffs against the New York Rangers. The league fined the Isles $25,000. I guarantee, if this incident happened now in the playoffs, there'd be suspensions all day long. That was ugly. That was a mugging. That was old 70s style hockey. And then, this is interesting too. Washington's Dale Hunter took a belligerent act a little too far in the playoffs, viciously mugging a number of opponents. And there he is with the Rangers. And he did. And I mentioned when I talked about Hall of Fame and Hunter, how the hit that he was guilty of against Pierre Turgeon would keep him out. But he was always on that line. He was always on that line. The weird thing was he could also score. And people are going to say, oh, like a Matt Tkachuk or Michael Furlan. No, Hunter scared the hell out of you. Hunter was kind of a rat, but Dale Hunter was legitimately really, really tough. So, there's that. All right, there you go. 1990, just a little bit of a time capsule thing. This is the kind of thing I love. This is just my love of hockey. When I looked at it online, all I saw was the cover, which is Gretzky, Savard, Hull, Lemieux, and Fuhr. And just based on that, I was like, well, I've got to have that. And the stories are just an added bonus. So if you were around back then, what was your favorite memory from back then? I don't remember how that DC thing turned out. I'm going to have to look that up online. I know there was a lot of controversy with Dino Ciccarelli. I know he partied pretty hard. Again, if players were under the same scrutiny back then that they are now, like you look at Tyler Seguin and the reputation he had when he left Boston, that's nothing compared to these guys in the late 80s. Nothing. That is jack squat. And the idea too of an owner saying, I'm tired of the antics of this team and just letting guys go and getting rid of people, you wouldn't see that now. And the funny part too is there's Dino Ciccarelli and they're saying he has no trade value, and he played for almost another decade after that. And he's in the Hall of Fame. So it's interesting how years and years separated, you can look back and go, oh, what a legend. And yet at the time that they play, people don't think they're a legend. Let me know who you think's in that category right now. Who of players that are disrespected right now, 20 years from now, people are going to say what a great guy he was and what a great Hall of Famer he is. Let me know. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, and thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.